Maple Namu. Hello and welcome back, or for the first time, to the Maple Namu Podcast. My name is Chris, and in this episode, I'm going to talk about how it is a small world. The world is a lot smaller than we think it is, and I've had this happen quite a few times in my life. Just this week, it happened again. And I thought it would be an interesting topic to talk about. So I keep meeting people that I have connections with. And I didn't know that these connections were there. But it's really strange. It keeps happening often enough that I think it's a little bit weird. The first time this happened was in Ireland. I went to Ireland after my first year of university, and there was another Canadian as part of the program we went through. And we were on the train going to, I don't remember the name now, but we were going to somewhere on the coast. And we got to talking and found out that she was Canadian. And her parents had just moved to a town in Ontario. And I asked, oh, well, what town is it? And she told me the name, and I'm like, oh, okay, I know that town. Yeah, I've been there. And I'm like, okay, well, do you know where in that town? And she says, near the gas stations. I'm thinking, okay, well, I live in that town near the gas stations. I didn't tell her this yet. I keep asking questions, and it's a little bit scary, but not too creepy. It wasn't in a context where it would have been creepy, don't worry. But in this town near the gas stations. And I said, oh, do you know like what street or like what area? Because there's a subdivision near us called Apple Valley. And we thought maybe they had a house in there or something. And she says, no, we don't know who it is. All we know was there was an old lady that lived there, and she moved into a care home, and my parents bought her house and they moved there. And I just think to myself, oh, okay. And she's like, yeah, I mean, she moved, but we keep getting her mail. Because, maybe she forgot to send her mail to the place. I mean, she was 90-something. She was a really nice lady, actually. How do I know that? And I just asked her, like, was her name Bernice? And she says, yes. And I think to myself, what? Here we are in the middle of Ireland. I'm talking to another Canadian who knows about my town, knows the rough area I'm in, knows the name of this old lady in this house that just happened to be my neighbor. Yeah, I met my neighbor in Ireland. I haven't met them in Canada. I haven't seen them since then. But somehow, I met my neighbor in another country. Her parents bought the house beside my parents, and we just had no idea until we started talking. And like, this is just too close. How is it possible that I met my neighbor in another country? It's just too weird. And then it happened again. It happened in Daejeon, Korea this time. And I met someone, it was like a pub night or something. We were out having a few drinks, nothing crazy, and a mutual friend. And I started talking to her, and then she's like, oh yeah, I came from Canada. Oh, Canada too. Like, whereabouts? And she talked about it, and turns out we went to the same high school. We didn't overlap. She was there before me, but she might have known my brother, which is weird. Somebody else from that same place who knew. And then it happened again this week. Kind of. A new worker came in on Monday, and we started talking, and just like a few questions here and there, like talking about life in Korea, and she mentions that, she's like, where are you from? And well, I'm from Canada. And she's like, oh, I like Canadians. They're really nice. And I'm like, oh, well, we try. I mean, usually. And she's like, yeah, I have a Canadian friend in Seoul. Oh, okay. yeah, maybe there's a few of them. And like, yeah. And we started talking about Korean later, and she's, oh yeah, my Canadian friend in Seoul is really good at Korean. And I said, oh, okay, yeah. And then she said her name. And I think to myself, I know a Canadian in Seoul by that name. And I ask, oh, well, like, what's her last name? And she tells me, and I say, oh, yeah, okay. I know her. It turns out it's somebody that I went to university with. We both came to Korea around the same time. We weren't particularly close, but I mean, we were friendly enough, and we don't talk that often. I have a lot of zero maintenance friendships, which are fantastic. But that might be another podcast episode. But she tells me her name, and I think to myself, oh yeah, I know her. Huh. Another connection. Who knew? Another Canadian in Seoul just happens to be somebody that I went to school with and know. And like, it's kind of funny because we have sort of this joke where you meet someone from a country and you ask, hey, well, yeah, do you know Dave from Canada? Oh, yeah. Everybody knows Dave, even if you don't know. You just make the joke about it. And like how would Canada has 33 million people in it? How would I possibly know who this other person is? And it turns out that I actually did know. The first person who's asked me in a long time if I knew this other person from Canada, I actually knew the person. Huh. Who knew? I think this happens too much. I wonder what the next one's going to be. It's something to look forward to, I suppose. But that's going to be the episode for today. It's just a bit of a short one. And this might, hopefully, be the last episode of the year because Omicron hoping, we are still planning on going to Canada. My wife and I. The worrying thing is right now, though, is that the government has decided to put travel restrictions on, maybe. So maybe we can't go, which is a lot of just worries and stress. But if I am able to go to Canada, this will be the last episode this year. If I am not able to go to Canada, there will probably be another one or two. So hopefully I will have an episode in the new year and not next week if all goes well. So, happy holidays. Merry Christmas if that's your thing. Happy New Year. Happy other holidays so that I don't miss anybody else. And have a great day.